Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Collective stood before the massive observation deck of his flagship, watching the blue marble of Earth slowly rotate beneath them. The planet looked so peaceful, so insignificant compared to the 1,000-ship armada that now surrounded it. After centuries of expansion across the galaxy, humanity had finally been cornered. "The humans have been given our ultimatum," reported his aide, Lieutenant Vexhan. "Complete surrender and subjugation or total annihilation. They have 6 standard hours to respond." Zektar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The humans had been a persistent thorn in the collective's side for far too long. Unlike other species they'd conquered, humanity refused to accept the natural order. They didn't bow when faced with superior technology. They didn't weep when their colonies were destroyed. Instead, they fought back with a ferocity that had cost the collective more ships than the previous 50 conquests combined. But now it was over. Earth was humanity's last stronghold, and it was surrounded. "Sir," Vexhan continued, "the Psychological Warfare Division requests permission to begin broadcasting images of our conquered worlds. They believe showing humans the fate of defiant species will accelerate their surrender." "Granted," Zektar replied. "Let them see what becomes of those who resist the collective." The broadcast began immediately. Massive screens appeared in Earth's atmosphere, showing world after world of broken civilizations. The Velthari, once proud warriors, now serving as manual laborers in collective mines. The Zephyrians, their beautiful crystal cities reduced to supply depots. The Korthani, their mighty fleets melted down for scrap metal. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. But the response that came from Earth 6 hours later was not what Zektar expected. A single transmission, broadcast on all frequencies, originating from what appeared to be a small communications array in the ruins of a human city. The voice that spoke was weathered, tired, but unbroken. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force speaking for humanity. We've seen your little slideshow, Admiral. We've seen what you do to conquered worlds, what you call peace and order. Here's our response." The transmission paused, and Zektar leaned forward, expecting the words of surrender. "We reject your ultimatum. We reject your authority. We reject your very existence as anything more than bullies with big ships. You want to break our spirit? You want to see us bow? Then you clearly don't know who you're dealing with." Zektar's scales bristled with indignation. "Impossible. They've seen the evidence of our power. They know they cannot win." But Chen wasn't finished. "You show us broken worlds and expect us to surrender? You've made a fundamental error in understanding humanity. Every world you showed us, every broken civilization, that's not a warning to us. That's a promise of what we'll prevent. You've just given us 1,000 more reasons to fight." The transmission continued, and Zektar began to notice something strange. The signal wasn't just coming from Earth anymore. Similar broadcasts were emerging from deep space, from asteroid fields, from the edges of the system where no human settlements were supposed to exist. "You see, Admiral, while you were busy surrounding Earth, you missed something important. Humans don't just live on one world anymore. We're spread across space in ways your sensors can't detect. Hidden colonies, underground bunkers, generation ships disguised as asteroids. You've surrounded our home, but you haven't surrounded us." Vexhan's instruments began screaming warnings. "Sir, we're detecting multiple contacts throughout the system. They were hidden, somehow masking their signatures. But here's what you really don't understand about humans." Chen's voice continued. "We don't fight because we think we can win easily. We fight because surrender is worse than death. You call it irrationality. We call it principle." The first human ships appeared on the sensors like ghosts materializing from nothing. They were smaller than collective vessels, clearly inferior in firepower, but there were dozens of them. Then hundreds, emerging from hiding spots throughout the solar system. "You want to know what human defiance looks like?" Chen's voice had taken on a different quality now, not desperate but determined. "It looks like a species that spent 50 years preparing for this moment. It looks like children who grow up knowing they might die fighting for freedom they'll never see. It looks like old men and women who choose to ram their ships into yours rather than let you have them." The human fleet wasn't trying to engage the collective in traditional battle. Instead, they were doing something unprecedented. They were targeting the collective's own weapons with suicide runs, using their smaller ships like guided missiles to disable the larger vessel's primary armaments. "Every ship you destroy, Admiral, is a human who chose to die rather than live under your rule. Every colony you glass is evidence of your failure to understand what you're fighting. You can kill us, but you cannot make us submit." Zektar watched in horror as his massive fleet, designed to intimidate through overwhelming force, began to suffer real damage from an enemy that refused to play by the rules of warfare. The humans weren't trying to win in any conventional sense, they were trying to make victory meaningless. And here's the thing about human defiance, Chen continued. It's contagious. Right now across the galaxy, every species you've conquered is receiving this broadcast. They're seeing that someone said no to you. They're remembering that freedom is possible. The Admiral's communications officer suddenly looked up in panic. Sir, we're receiving reports from across the collective. Uprising on Velthar Prime. The Zephyrian crystal cities are reforming their defensive matrices. The Korthani shipyards have gone silent. Zektar realized with growing dread that the humans had done something no other species had managed. They had turned defeat into inspiration. By refusing to surrender in the face of impossible odds, they had reminded the galaxy that resistance was possible. You came here to break humanity's spirit, Captain Chen's voice concluded. Instead, you've learned what human defiance really means. It means we'd rather die free than live as slaves. It means we'll fight until our last breath, not because we're sure we'll win, but because surrender isn't in our nature. The final human transmission came as Earth's surface began to glow with the light of last-ditch defensive weapons powering up. You want our world, Admiral? Come and take it. But know that every human you kill, every city you destroy, every child you harm, just proves to the galaxy that your order is built on fear and violence. And fear, Admiral, is exactly what you should be feeling right now. As the battle for Earth began in earnest, Zektar understood that regardless of the outcome, the collective had already lost something irreplaceable. The certainty that overwhelming force could break any spirit. The humans had shown the galaxy a different path, and that knowledge could never be destroyed. Humanity's defiance had become something greater than victory or defeat. It had become legend,